What's going on, traders? In this video, I'll be sharing a trend continuation momentum strategy. I'll walk you through which indicators you need, how to set up these indicators, and then I'll walk you through 2 long trade examples and 2 short trade examples. So let's get right into it. The first thing to know about this strategy is that it can work on any time frame. I'm using the 3-minute time frame for this video, but you can use this strategy on any time frame. You just might have to adjust the settings a little differently than I do. And you can also use this strategy across any asset class. Right now I'm on Euro USD, but you can use this strategy for any asset class. This includes stocks, crypto, forex, and futures. Now that we got that out of the way, let's set up these indicators. So head over to the indicators tab and search for these 2 indicators, the SFX Algo Toolkit and the Squeeze Momentum Indicator by Lazy Bear. Once you've added these indicators to your chart, we'll go into the SFX Algo settings and make some changes. So the general algorithm settings that you choose completely depend on the time frame you're using. Since I'm on the 3-minute time frame, I'll switch my trading style to scalper, and then I'll also enable the AI sensitivity optimizer so I don't have to manually adjust my sensitivity. And the one thing I recommend that you don't switch is the trend length. You want to keep this at long term, whether you're on the 1-minute time frame or the 1-hour time frame. Always keep this set to long term with this strategy. After that, you'll want to scroll down and disable all of these settings. Then come down to the overlay section and enable the volatility bands. Make sure the Gauss ribbon's enabled and then disable the trend coloring. After that, you're all set with the settings for the SFX algo. And then with the squeeze momentum indicator, we'll keep the settings on default. This indicator is going to be used to confirm our entries. So we're only looking for buys if it's green and we're only looking for sells if it's red. All right, here we have our first long trade example. The first thing we want to wait for is a bullish signal from the SFX algo, which we get right here. After you get this bullish signal, you want to watch price go into the upper volatility bands or up here and retest this area. So as you can see, price ended up consolidating a bit, but then this candle wicked into the volatility bands and rejected it. So now the next thing we're going to look for is for price to come back to the Gauss ribbon and retest it. So as you can see here, price comes down to the Gauss ribbon. We get this bearish candle that kind of closes right at the edge of it. And what we'll want to do is then wait for a bullish candle to close outside of the Gauss ribbon. So here, the candle that closed after this bearish candle was a bullish candle. So the next thing we'll check for is if the squeeze momentum indicator is actually green or bullish. And if we look, the candle was bullish after that bearish candle that closed in the ribbon. So we would take a long entry at the close of this candle. Our stop loss would go at the low of the ribbon, and we would target a 1-to-2 risk to reward ratio trade. And as you can see, this trade did end up hitting the take profit. Now I'll show you one more long trade example. All right, here we have our second long trade example. We get a bullish signal from the SFX algo. So the next thing we'll look for is for price to reject the upper volatility bands. So as you can see, the price action is a bit choppy and the market's kind of moving sideways, but we do get that push to the upper volatility bands and then price just dumps right after. So it rejects them perfectly. And now we're back to the Gauss ribbon. So the next thing we're looking for is for a bullish candle to close above this Gauss ribbon. And right here, this candle closes above the Gauss ribbon. And if we look down at the squeeze momentum indicator, we can see that it is also bullish. So what we'll do is take a long entry at the close of this candle. We'll set our stop loss at the low of the Gauss ribbon, and we'll target a 1-to-2 risk to reward ratio. After some choppy price action, price eventually ends up hitting our take profit. Now we'll get into the 2 short trade examples. Here we have our first short trade setup. We get a bearish signal from the SFX algo. So now we're going to watch for price to reject these bullish volatility bands, which price is already inside of them. And then we want to see price pull back to the Gauss ribbon. So as you can see, price consolidated a bit inside of the volatility bands and then jumped right back out of them. And now we're inside of the Gauss ribbon. So now we want to look for a bearish candle to close below this Gauss ribbon. And as you can see, this candle over here closes below the Gauss ribbon. So then we'll come check the squeeze momentum indicator and we can see that it is just barely bearish, but it's still bearish. So we will open up a short position. We'll set our stop loss at the high of this Gauss ribbon, and we're going to target a 1-to-2 risk to reward ratio trade. As you can see, and this trade ends up hitting the take profit. Now I'll share one more trade example before I wrap up the video. All right, here we have our final short trade setup that I'll be showing. We get the bearish signal from the SFX algo. Price comes into these bullish volatility bands and rejects them. And now price just came to the Gauss ribbon and retested it. And we have this bearish candle candle closing below the Gauss ribbon. So we'll look down at the squeeze momentum indicator and we can see that it's also bearish, which means we're going to take a short entry. We're going to set our stop loss at the high of this Gauss ribbon and we're going to target a 1-to-2 risk to reward ratio trade. This trade ended up hitting the take profit, and that was the last trade I have to show you guys with this strategy. If you have any suggestions for this strategy or find settings that work for other time frames and other tickers, please make sure to share them in the Discord. But that's all for this video and this strategy. I hope you guys all enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, remember to just leave a message in the Discord. Thank you for watching and have a great day.